According to Sigmund Freud, your personality develops through 5 psychosexual stages. And so what Freud is saying is, as we age, different parts of our body become the focus of our libido, of our sexual energy, and this is what drives our personality. Let me go ahead and caution you that you'll want to read the background on Freud and this perspective so you can understand where a lot of these ideas come from. Some of them are controversial, some of them are just plain icky, for lack of a better word. But be critical thinkers about them. Try to figure out why this might not be scientifically valid as opposed to it just sounding gross or weird. If you're being a critical thinker, you can probably see some problems in how we would ever test some of these ideas and if there's actual scientific evidence to support them. But let's get right into it. For each of these stages, you will want to know the name of the stage, the order that they are experienced, the age range associated with the stage, and then the different things that occur in each stage. So we'll start with the first stage. Freud thought that from birth to about the first year of life, that babies were in the oral stage of development. So oral, their mouth, was the focus of their libido, of their sexual energy. So according to Freud, children in the oral stage are completely dominated by the id. In other words, they are selfish. So what we're saying, that's not a bad thing. What we're saying is that babies do what babies want to do when they want to do it. If it feels good, do it. That's that pleasure principle. That's the id. If a baby wants to cry, it'll cry. It doesn't care what time of night or how little sleep you've got. If it wants to pee, it doesn't really care if it has a diaper on, if you're holding it. So again, oral stage, birth to about a year, and then completely dominated by that pleasure-seeking id. From about the age of 1 to 3, Freud said that children move into the anal stage of development. So the focus of pleasure during this stage is the anus. Now this is important because it's associated with toilet training. Freud was one of the first people to really push out there the idea that if you potty train someone too harshly, well, you can have a dramatic effect on their personality, perhaps create anxiety in them. So the anal stage from 1 to 3, it's associated with toilet training, and Freud says this is when the ego begins to develop, because now children learn they can't always just do what they want. Freud says this is a huge shift in a child's life because all of a sudden I have to tell my parents when I have to pee, and I have to pull my pants down and go in this weird room and sit on this weird thing, and what is all this about? I like to pee where I want to pee. But what Freud is saying is they enter a time in their lives when it becomes clear that you can't just always do what you want. So that ego begins to develop, the conscious decision to either do what feels good or to do what feels good only if you're not going to get in trouble or have consequences. The third stage is from about the age of 3 to 6, and this would be the phallic stage. This is the most interesting and controversial. A lot of things happen in this stage according to Freud. Specifically, the idea that little boys are sexually attracted to their mothers, their mother being the most important female in their life, and the sexual energy shifting to their penis. So Freud says little boys are sexually attracted to their mother. Well, this represents a problem because someone is already with their mother. Who's with their mother? Their dad. So Freud also said little boys develop castration anxiety, which is the fear that their father will pick up on their attraction to their mother and remove them from the competition, so to speak, by removing their penis. I told you it was a little icky in here. So again, Oedipus complex is what we call this when little boys are sexually attracted to their mom according to this theory. And we also say that they have castration anxiety, the fear that their fathers will cut off their penis. Now, Freud will say that little boys don't like all of this anxiety. That's a lot to deal with at such a young age. So Freud says that this is when children, when young boys, will start acting like their father to deal with all of this anxiety. Because if I act like my dad, well, my mom likes my dad, so that'll help me with her. But more importantly, if I act like my dad, he'll be my buddy, and he won't want to cut off my penis. Ladies, you don't get out of this fun conversation. According to this perspective, little girls are sexually attracted to, you guessed it, fathers, and they don't have anything to want to worry about castrating, but they do have something called penis envy, which is the recognition that you don't have a penis and the despair you have and the jealousy you have because you wish you had a penis. Now, again, this is controversial, and when you think about the time Freud lived in, it kind of makes sense, because if you had a penis, if you were a boy, then you were allowed to do whatever you wanted to in society. Men could talk about sex, have sex as much as they wanted. They were allowed to be actors, have certain jobs. Men had all the power. So phallus is actually another word for power, and so the phallic stage represents this kind of identity with your gender and realizing that if you're a boy, you're going to get to do a lot of things, and if you're a girl, you kind of wish you were able to do some of those things. The fourth stage lasts from 6 until puberty. That's the latent stage. This one's boring because Freud says that sexual feelings are repressed and kids just hang out with kids of the same gender. So boys hang out with other boys, girls hang out with other girls. No sexual development occurs. And then the fifth and final stage is the genital stage, and this is when puberty comes, sexual feelings are reawakened, but this time towards people who you're not biologically related to. So make sure you know all 5 of those stages, the names, the age ranges, and the interesting things that happen between them. That's not a bad idea to read about which parts of those theories are supported by research and which parts clearly are not.